Hi, I love making chocolates, cakes, pizzas and breads. Welcome, enter my world of baking. These are some chocolates that I've made. This was a chocolate cake for somebody's birthday. Hokkaido cheese tarts and biscuits. I love cherries and cheesecakes. These were delicious pizzas. And I invented roti terbang. It was so light it could fly. Lovely baguettes. Let me show you how I make bread at home. It's based on a technique called batter and dough method. It's a method that I invented about 10 years ago. It's very simple. There is no kneading involved. And you take about 3 to 4 hours to ferment the batter first before you convert it into a dough. The more water you have, the larger the holes in the bread will be. The less water you have, the smaller the holes will be. And you balance whether you want some oil or no oil at all. If you have no oil, you're just using yeast, salt, wheat flour and water. From there you can make a standard baguette dough and French baguettes. If you add a little bit of oil, you can make breads that rise very fast. If you reduce the water content, it's easy to handle the dough. The dough won't be sticky and soft. It'll be a bit more firmer. It all depends on your hydration. If you have a little extra water, the bread can rise very fast and can rise a lot. So it's your choice. I give you the range of oil and water that I use, and you can come up with your own variations. So let's have a look at the recipe that has easy dough handling properties. It's easier to shape the dough with this particular recipe. And of course, depending on the oils you use, you can adjust the flavor of the bread. But the best thing about this technique is there is no kneading and the bread flavor is delicious. Many people have tried my breads and they loved it. So let's try. This method makes a batter first, which is allowed to ferment for 3 to 4 hours so that there is a lot more flavor developed. This allows gluten formation too, so there is no need to knead the dough later. Use a third of the flour to make the batter first. To make the batter, add a third of the flour, the yeast and all the water and stir it well. Use a whisk because it's much easier to stir with a whisk until the batter is smooth. It only takes a few seconds. This video is 4 hours of batter fermentation shortened to 40 seconds. You can add Tangzhong, or I hope I pronounce it correctly, or Congee or Kanji, which is a cooked starch solution, thick solution, at this point, either at the beginning before fermentation or at the end of fermentation. But mostly you find that it may not be that necessary with the batter and dough method. After that, add the salt and the oil and stir well with a whisk. Add the balance of the flour and mix it well. It took me about 3 minutes to mix all the flour to form a dough. Do the first proof for half an hour or 1 hour, up to you. There are two ways to roll out the dough, either by hand or you can use a pastry roller. Did you notice how easy it is to handle this dough? It doesn't stick to anything. That is why I like this recipe a lot, and it's easy to use it to mold shapes, breads or buns of different shapes and sizes. In this case, I did the second proof for 1.5 hours. The total time taken for first and second proof should be 2 hours and not more, because if you exceed 2 hours, you may find that the dough is overproofed. Here the 1.5 hour video is shortened to 41 seconds. Bake the bread at 210 degrees Celsius for either 25 to up to 45 minutes. In my case, I baked it for 45 minutes. Here's the loaf of bread the next day after cooling down. Did you notice how easy it is to slice the bread? Wonderful homemade no-knead bread. If I had used the 63% water recipe, the bread would be very soft, and most people do not know how to slice such bread. They press it until it flattens. Here I am showing you 3 different recipes or versions of the recipes. You can mix and match whatever you want. You can increase the water content, or you can increase the oil content or reduce it. But if you want to make French baguettes, under French law, there can be only 4 items: water, wheat flour, yeast and salt. The more water you add to the bread recipe, the softer the bread will become. If you are not used to soft bread, you will definitely squeeze the bread when you try to slice it. Do try different versions of the recipe by varying the amount of water and oil and the type of oil you are using. It may be olive oil, maybe palm oil or whatever. This is because you will then find out what is suitable for your taste. An important point to consider or to understand is the viscosity of your dough. That is the ability for the dough to flow. If the viscosity is too low, that is, it is very watery, then it will be difficult to form and retain its shape. Worse still is that all the gases generated by the yeast will rise up and escape, and your dough will not rise that much. Sometimes the gases will be trapped at the top and you will see large cavities at the top of the loaf. If the viscosity is too high, that is, the dough is very thick, the gases will be trapped and cannot expand. Then you will see that the air bubbles are very tiny and the bread does not rise that much. The best dough viscosity is somewhere in between, where the dough rises fast and a lot and retains its shape.